I was really lucky. I was actually inducted into the coaching world in the corporate space. I got a job as a associate and sort of worked my way up from the back end side of things, producing coaching calls and doing virtual coaching, to eventually being put in front of clients and facilitating large groups. So for me, I actually was just doing it right off the bat.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm Pedro, and today I'm joined by Rachael Thomas, founder of Create Yourself Coaching, who works with business owners and executive women who are capable, intelligent, and successful, yet quietly know they're playing smaller than they want to. She specializes in helping high achievers move past imposter syndrome, overthinking, and that endless waiting to feel more ready. Her approach blends executive coaching with neuroscience-informed guided visualization to help women access the part of their brain that isn't driven by fear. When you work from that space, decisions become clearer, ideas bolder, and action feels aligned rather than forced. Welcome to the show, Rachael.
Thank you. It's actually really nice to hear my intro. That was cool. I'm like,
Nice.
Yeah, that is me. I do that. Cool.
Yeah, let's start by killing that imposter syndrome that I mentioned, right? You're awesome. Let's move forward with that. Now, I'm excited that you're here, okay? And before we get into what you do now, always curious how this all actually started, the origin story. So what was going on in your life when coaching became more than just an idea?
Yeah. So it was back in 2020, early 2020, or mid 2020, sorry. And I was in a different career then. I was flying, I was in aviation. I had been for 17 years, believe it or not. Something that I did pretty much straight out of uni. So it was my life. I'd done all the bases around New Zealand. I'd done all the types of flying from domestic, rural to international long haul. I'd also been a leader on the ground and in the sky. So I'd kind of dotted myself around and tried everything. I really loved it. It was interesting. It was fun. I got to see the world. And then I lost my job just overnight. And obviously, because of COVID, everyone lost their jobs. And we had the option to take furloughs. So to just wait until everything calmed down, until, the aircraft got back in the sky again, or to do something else. And I just kind of knew this was my universal slap in the face, as you do. This was time for me to really think about what I wanted, where I wanted to be, and what I wanted to be doing. I had a son, I have a son, and back then he was quite little. He was about a year and a half. And leaving him for several days at a time just was not ideal for me. So I think the glamour that comes with flying and the excitement was starting to wear off anyway. So, initially I was really devastated, but I took time and I processed that grief. And then I started to pivot quite quickly into what next. And it's interesting, the sort of the crossover around helping people and supporting people. I was always that flight attendant in the back galley that was being the agony aunt to the passengers and helping them with their problems, or, my fellow crew sitting and talking to them about how they could solve problems. It was something that I just really loved, was that authentic connection and helping people and being vulnerable. So coaching was just kind of a really natural step for me. I found it, or it found me in some ways. And as soon as I knew it was what I wanted to do, I went about finding the correct path to get myself in that space and doing the study and taking that time to make sure I did it the right way. And it all just kind of fell into place. Like anything, I think when you connect with your true purpose and it's something you really want and you have that clear why, the rest just falls into place and you make it happen. So I haven't really looked back, to be honest.
Interesting. 17 years, that's a a long time, and then you pivot to coaching now.
Yeah.
And I get it, you were helping people, you always were like a natural coach in a sort of way. Now what I'm curious about is like, when did you felt that shift, when you change from a side thing or a calling from
Mm,
coaching to
mm.
start feeling like an actual business you were responsible for?
I mean, for me, I was really lucky. I was actually inducted into the coaching world in the corporate space. I got a job as a associate and sort of worked my way up from the back end side of things, producing coaching calls and doing virtual coaching, to eventually being put in front of clients and facilitating large groups. So for me, I actually was just doing it right off the bat because there was this again opportunity that came from COVID. Everything went virtual, so all of these sort of live sessions that had been happening for a lot of organisations suddenly went virtual, and they needed more people. They needed they needed help essentially. So there was a space that was available for me in the corporate world, which I took. And that became like the bread and butter for me. And it was also a really good way of getting my coaching hours up, practicing coaching. And so, as that was running on one side, on the other side, I knew that there was a different kind of style of coaching or modality that I wanted to present from my own self. So what I was doing in the corporate space informed how I coached, but then there was this other part of me, this more vulnerable, authentic, heart-centered, heart-led part of me that wanted to offer a different style of coaching. And I think that just naturally sort of rose up to the surface as I was doing the corporate stuff on the side. And eventually I just became bold enough to go all in on that. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yes, it does answer, because that's very interesting. We're talking about a contracted coach. And so there's another shift that I'm interested. The real shift is that leap of faith, right? When
Yeah.
you stop, or eventually don't focus so much in the hours in the corporate world, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to launch it. I'm going to do it on my own. So
Mhm.
when did you realize, like, hey, I guess this is something I can do it on my own? Is it more like gradually building up to that point? Like, hey, maybe I want to do this my way, or is it like a big leap of faith eventually?
I think it's both. There was nothing wrong with the corporate coaching. It was really, I got a lot out of it, but I suppose there's kind of a comparison to people that leave the corporate world and they go and they create their own business. Nearly everyone says, that they just felt that something was missing. They wanted to do things their way. And that was me. I was getting a lot of gratification and satisfaction out of what I was doing, but it wasn't 100% me. And it's interesting because when you are paying all your bills and you've got, good income coming in from something, there's no real push. There's no real, you've got to go do this moment because you've got everything you need. And so you have to be really courageous, and you almost have to have that strong desire and drive inside you to go and do something that potentially might not bring in that income straight away. It's a real leap of faith. And for me, to be honest, look, I'm not perfect, and it's always the universe. It's always that kind of slap in the face or the push for me, the stick and not the carrot, as they say. My year last year was just kind of really crazy, and I started the year saying I want to go all in, and then the economy in New Zealand just tanked, and the corporate coaching stuff tanked along with it. So I actually had no choice. It was like finally the universe was just saying, like, go now. You've got to do this. It's now or never. And I did. So I'd love to say that I leapt for just, the joy of leaping, but I did have to be pushed. And I think, a lot of us feel that way. We spend a lot of time playing in safety and doing those things that really scare us and push us right outside the comfort zone can feel kind of unnatural, daunting. We avoid it. We avoid pain as humans. So I'm, just like everyone else in some ways, but I think since I've leapt, I've kept leaping, and I'm proving to myself that this is possible.
Interesting. And there's one thing that I want to highlight, right? You were in the corporate coaching space, you mentioned, like a contractor, and then you moved to your own practice. And that's a different beast, right? Because before you were just like handling ops, and now you
Yep.
have to deal with marketing,
Everything.
positioning, everything. So
Yeah.
once you were out there, you know,
Yeah.
doing your own thing, your own business, who did you naturally end up attracting? You know, when did you realize, you know, this is my tribe? I'm not sure if we're the same people from the business you were working with, or it's a different one, you know?
A real combination. I think people that are attracted to me are people that, you know, they probably are in a similar space to where I was at. And it's that everything's okay, but I do want more space. And I like to hold that space for people and to let them play in their dreams. So not just what's practical and what should happen, but what they actually really want to do. And I think that, you know, naturally my story shows that we can feel safe and we can be in that I've got enough things, everything's fine space for as long as we want to be. But there's a deeper calling inside us normally that's saying there's this other thing that I want. So I draw people into my sphere that are looking to kind of break through the glass ceiling and show themselves who they really are and start really discovering their true potential, or even just allowing themselves to connect with what they really want beyond all of the shoulds. So it's women, you know, women that are really, like I said, really successful, capable, confident people, but they've built a life where they are almost in service to a lot of other things other than themselves, and they feel guilt about choosing themselves. So I like to create a container where they can come in, not feel guilt around that, and know that they can have both. It's not an and or. You know, you can play in that duality of, yes, I can show up for all of my people and be this person, and I can choose myself as well. And that is not a selfish thing to do.
Interesting. Okay. Now let's pretend those women, right, they're really successful, but they're feeling guilty. Your ICP, the one you just described me, they're looking out for you, right, in the marketing side of things. How do they usually find you in the first place?
So I do a lot of networking, you know, primarily in the first year when you start a business. And I don't know how other people do it, but I've found that getting yourself out there and getting known is really important, which means being vulnerable. It means joining networking groups. It means, you know, connecting with people that may be interested in what you do. So being quite targeted in that networking. I've connected with a lot of women's networking groups in New Zealand and virtually and in the real world. And that's been really helpful for me. But of course, you get to a point where, you know, you can't always be in the car, or you can't always be in those networking spaces. So you need to now maximize your time. So I'm moving into, you know, the ad space and getting a virtual presence as well, because I just feel like that's the natural next part of growth, is advertising and pulling people in so that they can discover you virtually.
Okay, so let's pretend I'm one of those women, right? Okay,
Yeah.
Pedra, not Pedro. Okay, and I'm looking at I'm at an event. I'm looking at ads, you know, your digital presence, let's call it that way, and I'm like resonating with your content, right? I'm like, oh, Rachel seems pretty cool, so I want to work with you eventually. Okay, we close. You're onboarding me. So walk me through the perspective of a client that is joining your business, you know, the structure. How does that work?
So we start with an introduction process, which is really sort of feeling it out. What does this person need? What are their goals? What are they looking to create? It's all about create yourself. So what are they looking to create? So spending a lot of time in that space of discovery to really understand what they need and what they want. And then from there, you know, I'll put to them, this is my suggestion. This is what I think would work really well for you. Whether it's a coaching package, it's usually a coaching package. Sometimes a bespoke guided visualization as well, if they're working on a specific challenge, to help them to sort of reprogram while they coach. And then from there, we just, you know, it just goes towards that coaching. You know, the next step, when are we going to do this coaching thing? It's virtual. They can choose when they want to see me. I always say, you know, don't leave it longer than a fortnight between our sessions, because so much can happen in a fortnight. So I like to keep in contact with my clients, and I like to ensure that, you know, they feel supported even when they're not with me. So yeah, it's just kind of a natural progression through that discovery phase into what is the right package for them, you know, to meet their needs, and then looking towards, okay, so how long will we be working together? What's the lifespan of this coaching? and what are you looking to achieve on the other side of that?
Okay, I like it sounds like you're connecting them with aligning, I would say, what they want with what they need, and trying to
Yeah.
deliver that service so they can
Mm.
get the best outcome possible. Now,
Hmm.
your work seems pretty involved, right? We're talking about, and we kind of browsed through it before, like, and this happens a lot in the coaching space, wearing all the hats, right? Doing
Hmm.
everything your own. So,
Yeah.
how do you think about managing your time, right, and energy so the business doesn't
Mhm.
start owning you, for example?
Yeah. I think, my biggest lesson this year, and I know it's only 3 months in, but I'm really feeling that fire horse energy, which means I want to do more and I want to do more now. I'm very impatient. Once I lock on to something, I want it to happen. My biggest lesson has been asking for help and partnering with the right people that can support my goals. So, just in the same way I'm a coach for others, I've got my own coach now, a business and growth and marketing and sales expert who I've partnered with to help me grow my business, but also to save me time by helping me with their expertise in the areas that I've not gone and studied marketing at university. I'm not a sales expert either, but they are. And so I can borrow their knowledge and then I can have a more strategic approach to those areas rather than fumbling around in the dark like so many of us do. And I think I did that for years, just trying to muddle through and figure it out on a tight budget. At some point, you have to choose to invest. It really is that if you're on the cusp of getting where you want to go, at some point you have to go all in and ask for help and partner with the right people. So I've partnered with someone around growth and marketing and business, and I've also partnered with someone around the sort of SEO AIO piece as well. Which again, I'm not an expert in these things, and there's only so much you can get from ChatGPT and YouTube tutorials. And it takes, like you said, that time piece. It's a massive drain on time when you're trying to teach yourself, and then you're not even sure if you're in the right space, learning the right things. It really can be like sitting and spinning on the spot. So my biggest piece of advice for people is don't wait, partner with people that can move you forward and the results will make up for the investment, right? You get that ROI pretty immediately.
Well, only fair that you do the same that you do to your coachees, right? You're investing in
Yeah.
yourself. You're trying to expedite
Yeah.
the curve. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Now, I want to tap into your experience because you mentioned imposter syndrome yourself and helping
Yeah.
clients with that. Okay. And
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
know you pivoted during COVID and all of that.
Mhm.
So, pricing, right? That's a hot
Yeah.
topic for a
Yeah.
coach. And we're not talking about hard numbers, but it's a very self-worth path.
Yeah.
Am I charging enough? Am I not
Mm.
charging enough? So
Mhm.
how do you approach that topic now? And what did you learn the hard way to get where you are right now?
I love that question because I think it's really important. And look, I don't know about men. I'm not a man, but I do feel like this is really common for women. We find it hard to really go all in on ourselves and to price ourselves in a fair way and really value ourselves and have that be reflected in our pricing. When I first started, I was very sort of I had this real sort of altruistic, I just want to help people. I just want everyone to benefit from my services. I don't want to price anyone out of what I'm offering. I was offering way too low, way too low because I wanted to catch everyone. And I think what I learned was catch the people that will invest in you so that then you can help everyone, but you can't do it the other way around. You've got to have those A type clients coming in and spending a decent amount of money with you so that you can then be more altruistic and offer it to people perhaps at a better price for those that really need the service but can't afford it. And it just has to happen in that order. Otherwise, you don't have a business and then you're not helping anyone, right? So, so for me, it was all around the beliefs. I think it comes down to what do I believe about myself? What is that self-talk around my value? I actually have some sticky notes in front of me. I'm offering a highly valuable service. I can be assertive and confident at the same time as being kind. All of these mantras that I remind myself of because I am really empathetic. And I think I do feel sometimes guilty about pricing, but then I think about what I do And I think about the time, money, value that I've invested into what I do, and it's worth it. And it's transformational. It's not just someone coming and buying a shirt and going away and going, that's cool. They're changing their lives. And that's, there's a lot of value in that. And I do value myself now. So I think it's just that mindset piece. It's getting really clear on your worth, and then don't be wishy-washy about it. Go all in on that and be confident, and people will meet you where they're at.
I love the anchoring notes you have in front of you. I think that's
Yeah.
very, very powerful. I also have my kids' photos, their drawings here, and some quotes, so I can resonate
Yeah.
with what you just said. Now,
Yeah.
I'm curious, what's the direction you're aiming this business towards? Are you thinking more about growth, leverage,
Yeah.
building a team, or refining what already works? What feels most exciting for you right now?
Yeah, I think, naturally I do want to grow. Naturally, I want this to be bigger and I want to help more people. That would look like growth. It would look like team. It would look like working with people on a larger scale. I'd love to be able to, bring huge groups of people into a space, to be able to take them through my process together collectively. I think there's something very powerful about bringing people into a space that perhaps have the same goal and can feel really isolated in that, or the same challenges, and allowing them to connect with each other on a journey of that. And I'd like to be able to do that more, whether it be, in just out in the community or in the corporate space. I think that what I bring into my coaching, the guided visualization piece, is extremely powerful and potent. And the results that you get when you start from that space are really interesting and expansive. I would like to do that with large groups of people, just to see the magic and see what happens with that. I'd also like to build community. So I'd like to create a space where people can support each other, again, through their challenges. Life's not easy. And I'd like people to be able to, my tribe that, probably think the same way and have that similar values and mindset, coming together to be supportive to each other. Just love to grow that community and help as many people as possible, kind of circling back to that vision I had at the start, that little baby coach me that was like, I just want to help everyone. I still do just want to help everyone, but I'm more strategic about that now.
I have a question for you, and you're just grinding my gears here. Do you think having the possibility, it feels like you have a different lens because you worked in corporate coaching, and I see a lot of people in the industry, they're like not past beyond one-on-ones because they're afraid of losing the personal touch. They're afraid of, losing the customization of it. But it seems like you're not shying away from that. It's like you've been there, you've done that, and you see it happening in live, and it brought results, right? Do you feel like that is a benefit for you to understand, to have that mindset behind scaling?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to just have faith. You can't always see everything to believe it, right? There's the actual going out and doing it. I'm, like you say, I'm fortunate to have been in that corporate space, helping people, helping groups of people, and seeing what happens in a room when you get a group of people together, seeing that magic that happens. And it's really down to the person, it's down to their goals and what they're looking to do. For me, I'm really comfortable to hold space for lots of people. I having been a flight attendant for 17 years, I used to stand up in front of 300 people and, make those announcements. So I feel like I've spent a lot of time building those skills and getting really comfortable in front of people. So I would say to people that are thinking about that, just start to build that confidence. Maybe it's a small group, maybe it's 5 people in a virtual call. You start to build your confidence slowly and just see how it feels. It might not be for everyone to work with big groups of people, but for me, it's not just a challenge. It's I like you say, I have that memory, I have that connection to the magic in the room, and just the joy that it brings me to see a group of people coming together and learning at the same time and sharing insights and vulnerabilities. It's what makes us feel human, right? Feeling connected to other humans on a similar journey. And even if it's not the same challenge, just to share in a challenge makes us feel seen and part of something. And I'd love to just, create that for people and get people in that space so they can enjoy it.
Yeah, I bet you. Now, even when things are going well, right, there's always something under construction. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the main thing you're actively working or trying to improve in the business right now?
I probably, those pieces that I mentioned earlier around the marketing, SEO, AIO, just getting all of those back end pieces ticking along really nicely, and also some funnels and some lead magnets. I've got a lot of work to do in that space, but now I've got the support and the direction. So it's just about executing and getting the work done, and not procrastinating. Like that's my nemesis is the procrastinating. And I did a post on this recently about procrastinating, which is, I coined the phrase. I feel like so many of us in personal development get so hung up on learning. We get a little bit stuck in the space of, I'm not ready yet. I just need to do another course, or I just need to read this book. We're never going to be 100% ready. And part of the growth is in the doing. Well, actually a massive part of the growth is in the doing, or the learning is in the doing. So we can learn everything, we can hold it intellectually, but until we get out there and do it, we're not actually changing what we're doing. So for me, it's being very clear on setting the goals about what I'm doing right now and just working on those, and not going back into that space of, but I just want to do this course, or I want to learn more about this aspect of neuroscience, or, there's lots of opportunities. We're getting pinged every day on LinkedIn with join this course, sign up for this. And there's nothing wrong with that if it's supporting you in the direction towards your goals. And I like to check in with myself, is this in service of my current goal? And if it's not, why would I do it? Because it's taking me off that, that path, and in a way creating an opportunity to procrastinate that has a high dopamine hit, because, hey, I'm learning, I'm doing something, I feel good about myself. It's a tricky one.
Oh, I can resonate a lot with what you've just said. Like, and you mentioned this before. It's like it sounds like on my head, it's like we're getting different pieces of puzzles and trying to connect them. Like, we don't even know sometimes the real questions we have to ask to GPT or whatever. We're like trying to guess, and sometimes it gaslights us into the wrong direction, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're a genius. First of all, it's super biased. It keeps telling me I'm super intelligent. Really, dude? No, And the second thing is, like, I find it funny that when you don't know anything about it, you make some absurd prompts, right? For example, if I ask ChatGPT how to punch a wall, the best way to punch a wall, it will eventually give me the 3 best ways, but it won't challenge my idea, right? Of, hey man, should you really be doing that?
Love that. Love that.
I mean, it's so biased and throw us in a wrong direction. And sometimes, I'm not sure if you agree with that, and that's why the reason I'm gonna ask, it's like, it's that first question, right, that needs to make sense. It's the first prompt, and that's sometimes it's just an expert that can tell you that, right?
I absolutely agree with you. I think it's so important that we understand that our belief of what we know about ourselves is going to then influence the way we interact with this AI. If we're not aware or have that conscious awareness of all of our biases and, our limited perhaps views on things, we're just sharing one perspective. We're not thinking critically and we can learn to do that. But if we're not applying critical thinking with our prompts, AI will just take it at face value and work with what it's given. And I think, it's dangerous in the sense of coaching, therapy. A lot of people are using ChatGPT for that now. But what I'm seeing is people pathologizing themselves, people taking this one biased view that ChatGPT is giving them because it agrees with everything. Like you said, it's very sort of sycophantic. Oh, yes, you are so good at that. I believe you, Yeah. And so you get this loop. It's like a little echo chamber of your brain. And it's not necessarily challenging you in the way that you need to be challenged. So those prompts, I agree, are essential for critical thinking and awareness and growth and discovery. What's better than that? Well, a coach, a real one, because ChatGPT can't read into your emotion. You could be saying to ChatGPT, I really like this job, but X, Y, and Z. If you're saying that to a coach isn't just listening to the words. The coach is listening to the body language, to the tonality, to the energy, picking up on all of these nuanced aspects that come into what you're saying, not just what you're saying, not just the black and white words on the page. And that's where I think it's really important that we get clear on the way we interact with AI and what we're using it for, and perhaps just knowing that it's worth bouncing that information off another human as well, and not just taking it as gospel.
And it doesn't peel it off the real intention behind it. I think that's the true work of a coach. Like, for example, let's say I want to find my ICP, right? And I'm talking with GPT. I'm like, hey, you know what? Because I'm also a coach. I'm like, hey, I want to help X, Y, and Z. Design for me, I don't know, a marketing campaign with content and posts for, let's say, Facebook. And I'm trying to reach out to C-suite, right?
Yeah.
Do they hang out on Facebook?
Probably
Not really. Probably no. Where should, potentially LinkedIn, potential networking spaces, speaking gigs, So it will not challenge my original idea because I'm coming in from a biased perspective because, the reason is because I'm an amateur, right? I'm not thinking, I'm not a marketer guy, a marketing guy. So and eventually it will give me a path that it's not actually ideal. Do you see that happening too?
I do. I've seen it in myself, Pedro. Like, I look back on my, like my content creation plans that ChatGPT was whipping up for me. And, you get a lot of people saying, oh, ChatGPT can do everything. It'll create your 3-month content plan and it'll, plan your goals for the year. Yeah, it will, but it's not challenging you, and it's giving you what you want to hear. And I think about the way I'm creating now. I'm thinking differently. I'm thinking about the things that I'm learning from the experts that I'm working with. ChatGPT hasn't challenged me in that way. Sometimes it's awesome, don't get me wrong, particularly around technical things. It's been really good for me to, I'm stuck on something. How do I get out of this hole? And it gives me all these articles or connecting me to information and moves me forward. But when it comes to the people aspect and perhaps who you are as a coach, it's not necessarily going to challenge you. And like you say, put you in the right space, doing the right thing. It's a thing that you can do. Is it moving you, like I say, is it moving you towards your goals? Or is it just getting you doing what everyone else is doing? And I think we've got to be thinking about how we can be unique in this space and not just be doing what everyone else is doing and sounding like another ChatGPT post, because I think we're all getting pretty wise to that now. We see it, we recognize it, the intonation and the cadence of a ChatGPT post. You're going to be really careful about that.
Yeah, not theory, the hard truth. It's not X, it's not Z, it's just Y. We can see it, the slop.
Yeah.
It was back in the day, it was the dashes, right? But now it's different. It's just that one. Sometimes it's 3 sentences with 1 word. It's trying to be super catchy, So I'm like, and thanks, ChatGPT.
Yeah, I mean, I love to use it to sense check. Can you check my spelling? Does this make sense? Sometimes it'll give me it'll say, hey, what have you thought about doing this? And I'm like, that is so cringe, ChatGPT. Why would I do that? That is so cringy. But if you don't challenge yourself to really be critical about those responses and look at them and go, actually, would that work? If I was reading that, what would I think? Is that my language? Is that something I would actually say? Yeah, it can be dangerous.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Now, before we close this out, if someone resonated with what you shared and wants to follow your work, Rachel, where should they go?
So my website is www.createyourself.co.nz. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Rachael Thomas, Create Yourself Coaching. I'm also on Facebook as Rachael Thomas, Create Yourself Coaching. And I think that's about it. Yeah, there's probably enough places to find me. Oh, did I say Instagram?
Well, you did now.
Create_yourself_coaching is my handle.
Okay, there were a few moments that I would love to highlight from this chat. Okay, I would say, first of all, very interesting how you ended up creating the reps, putting in the reps inside a corporate world for coaching. I
Yeah.
see a lot of coaches doing pro bono in the early days to get that experience. You took a different route, which I think it's very, very, very cool. I would say, like it gives you also perspective of what's possible,
Hmm.
and puts you in a framework of what to do. And after a while, you decided, you know what, time to move on,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
I think that's very, very interesting. Also, the first pivot was you were pushed right from COVID. That
Yeah.
was a pivot, and then you
Yeah.
did it your own, right? You didn't wait it for the second call out.
Yeah.
You were like,
Yeah.
I can see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it before I'm pretty well established. I know what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I learned the craft. So
Yeah.
you took your destiny, I would say, your own hands, right? I love that,
Hmm. Thank
and
you.
going back to the imposter syndrome, right? It's so easy
Hmm.
and so scary at sometimes taking that leap of
Yeah.
faith, right? Building your
Yeah.
own practice. You're like, you could be there yet in that
Mm.
comfortable space, just collecting a paycheck, and keeping that style. But you're like,
Yeah.
no, I'm moving away from that mentality.
Yeah.
And I would say also, as a last highlight, when we were talking about pricing, right? And
Hmm.
that you were so open about it, like I was
Mm.
charging way too low, and
Yeah.
brings back to that imposter syndrome, that
Yeah.
oh, that thing that it's like. And I think it's at the end of the day, the coaches that struggle the most with pricing are the ones who care the most, are the ones
Yeah.
who actually want to serve people, because
Yeah.
they're out there coaches who do pro bono work, like, and they're amazing. And we see some guys charging 20K, 30K, and they're like, "Ugh, terrible," because they don't put
Mm.
their heart into it. So
Hmm.
this is my long way of saying that I really appreciate you taking the time and being open
Mm.
with this. It was great having you on, Rachel.
Thank you. I really loved the conversation and thanks for having me. It's been fun.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.